Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, I love these episodes because I get recommended somebody that I'm like, oh, you should know this person. And then I'm like, oh, I should know this person because they're an entertainment reporter and they love Bravo. They were just at the Super Bowl. They've moderated a BravoCon before. They come highly recommended from people that I respect. So I'm like, hell yeah, I want to talk to this person. And it's great because you get to kind of see where these conversations go. And I always love to hear how somebody else consumes media or consumes reality television and to see where they stand on all things Vanderpump Rules, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Jennifer Lopez. We'll see what we get to today. So without further ado, the one, the only Lanae Brody. Lanae, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you've written for People, you've written for, I mean, most recently you were at The Messenger, which like shut down randomly. So that's got to be very exciting and scary for you. But you've been in this business for a while now. And I just think that's like amazing because I love entertainment reporting. It's one of my favorite things, like to read and to like have people that pass these messages on. And how did you get into any of this to begin with? Have you always just loved pop culture, or how did you get into the business?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. It's kind of a fun story. I knew I wanted to do something in TV and I loved celebrities and I loved news, just news in general, everything from Dateline 2020 to the Today Show to Entertainment Tonight. So when I was going into my senior year of high school, I cold called the news desk at Entertainment Tonight. I like called Paramount, 310-555, whatever their number was. And I just asked to be connected to the news desk. And I just said, I am in college and this is my dream internship, but I don't know anybody. But I promise I'll do a better job than whoever you've got. And so the girl's like, send me your resume. And I like to say that I am pleasantly persistent. That is like how I'd like to label myself. For my publicist friends out there, shout out to them. I'm sure they could attest to that. And I just, politely followed up and I got the internship. And the first day there, I had to file tapes. Okay, so like here I am showing up thinking I'm going to be like rolling
And
with the
this was at
homies.
Entertainment Tonight?
Yeah, Entertainment Tonight. This was in 2007. And I get there and they're like, okay, so here's your box of tapes you're going to file. And I was like, what? So they had the old VHS tapes where you would literally squat, grab a tape, reach up high, file it next. And you would just do that all day. My quads were burning from one day. And day two, it was the day Paris Hilton had to report for jail. And somebody had
Oh, wow.
yeah, and they had somebody that their last day was the week before on the news desk. And so I saw this woman and like her energy was just so like infectious. And I said, hi, like, looks like you need help. Can I help you? And she goes, who are you? And I said, I'm an intern. My name is Lene. And she's like, sit there, grab the phone. If you can get me the police report, I'll hire you for the whole summer. And I was like, oh, okay. So I sat down. I had no idea how to get a police report. I'd never done it in my life. And I got the police report. And she called my boss and she was the head of the news desk. I had no idea who she was. Her name was Samantha Jacobson. Like literally I owe her my career, my mentor. She's amazing. And she called my boss at the time and said, can I have this girl for the whole summer? And from there, she mentored me and she was like, I think you belong at the weekly. So I was at In Touch and Life and Style for a decade where I was covering carpets and events and being at the clubs and the restaurants till the wee hours of the morning during the Chris Brown and Rihanna days. From there,
Oh
I
my
went to
gosh.
Hollywood Life. Yeah. From there, I went to Hollywood Life, where I launched an Instagram live series where I really got to tap into my love for Bravo during the pandemic. And we would go live like 3 to 4 times a day with all of our favorite Bravo celebrities. From there, I went to People, and from there, I went to The Messenger. And that is my 16-year career in a nutshell.
But I mean, you say you owe it to this one. I think you owe it all to Paris Hilton. Let's give Paris Hilton the props that she deserves. You owe your career potentially. But I remember that day. Like, I remember it was on the news. It was like her reporting to jail. Like, I remember those. And that's like the love of pop culture is so interesting because we have a different access now in this day and age than we have more access now than we ever have previously. I mean, you even brought up Chris Brown and Rihanna and all of these things that have happened in pop culture. Where do your tastes lie? Like, what are your favorite things? Because you love Bravo, but what else do you like when you're reporting on something? You have to kind of keep you're not supposed to be biased. You're not supposed to be like, how where do you fall on the pop culture scale in terms of your loves, and how do you keep that separate when you report?
Yeah, totally. That's really hard. Like when I get asked this all the time, I'm sure you do too. Who's your favorite housewife? And I always
Oh
say,
God.
I'm Switzerland.
Yeah.
I can't name one.
I, well,
But
I
like
wish I'll tell you who I don't like. I'll be
I
like,
mean,
I know who I don't like. Yeah.
but like full disclosure, like we also are human, Ryan, as you know, and like we do have a secret favorite housewife. Just like only
Yeah.
maybe like your best friend knows who that is. And it's so close to the vest that like it's so off the record. It's in the vault. But I think being a good journalist is being fair. Like I've gotten into several, differences of opinions, we'll call it, with colleagues when, they have a source saying this and I have a hunch where their source who their source is tied to, and then my sources may be tied to the other party. But like I feel like due diligence always needs to be done on both sides, because I believe there's always three stories, right? There's his story, her
Yeah.
story, and then the real truth. So I think it's really
Which
hard.
is
And
what we're
like,
seeing we're seeing that play out on Vanderpump Rules this season.
oh,
We're seeing
100%.
this, but that story also is not just playing out on the show. We saw it play out in articles, in Instagram, on like everything, like on podcasts. Like now there's not just reporting in the actual story. There's now podcasts, Instagram. Like it's all consuming. Like I feel like with that story, it exploded so much and people wanted to consume so much, but it's still to this day hard to get a 360 view of exactly what happened during Scandoval.
Yeah, and Scandoval was really, it was a difficult time in all of our lives. You like we can all sit there and say, like, do you remember where you were when Scandoval broke? Like I do. I
Yeah.
actually do.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah,
yeah.
where were you? Just
So I was actually in my garage, like heading to my garage, and like I just remember them being like, "Oh my God, Lene, we need you to like stop everything you're doing and jump on this now." And I was like, "What?" And then I remember a couple hours later, I won't say who it was, but there was a cast member that I was in communication with. And I was at the Santa Monica Pier. So like literally here I am, like, and I have a kid, so I'm like momming, like, oh my God, smile, this is great. As I'm literally like on the phone with a cast member, like trying to get to the bottom of like what was happening during Scandoval, right? And connecting with like several sources, and as every single reporter was at the time, right? Because
but
these
see,
are
this
people
is such
like
a
that
great
we're
entrance
friends with.
point.
Yeah,
This is
these are
such a
people
great
we're
entrance
friends
point.
with.
So it's well, just to take the audience through, because I don't think they have perspective on that, is you get that call, you're in your garage, as you a reporter, what do you start doing? Like, do you reach out immediately to a cast member? Like, how do you approach that? You hear this is happening. So as a reporter, what is your mind? Like, what are the first steps of what you do in that situation?
So, it's really hard because like I also like really value my relationship with the network. Like I've worked with them in tandem for years. Like I actually moderated the Vanderpump Rules panel in 2022 when Scandoval was going
So
on behind the scenes. 9.
so that was like right going into season, or there's season 9. Oh my gosh, you
Literally,
moderated that panel?
I moderated that panel, and like let me tell you, when I went into it, when you moderate at BravoCon, you're given very specific guidelines, as understandable,
Yeah.
right? Because you have a job to do, and fans say things and do things. And at the time it was, hey, if anyone brings up Raquel and Schwartz makeout session, shut it down. You get
Shut it down.
you get one question on it. They gave me the question, like this is what to ask. But like if fans start, making the cast uncomfortable and saying things like, please move on. So I did that, and I actually got booed. Like
And this
I
so
got booed.
that was the year, so that was the year she was dressed in the Tom Tom sweater, Raquel or Rachel.
Yes, but everybody was on stage, like she and James had just broken up. Okay, so like they had their breakup was like not even a year old. Katie, it was the first time Katie and Schwartz were like on stage together. Like the drama had nothing to do with what it did. Like Ariana and Sandoval were still together.
Oh my
There was
God,
a
that's
lot
such a
there was a
big
lot yeah.
responsibility.
It was
I
literally I did it for the people. I did it for the people. Um,
that's so
he
much pressure.
it
I
was so
mean,
much
and
pressure.
were you did it turn out well? Like I'm trying to remember because I was there. I think because that was that a panel that was on Friday or Saturday?
It
Anyways,
was
it
a
doesn't matter. But
Saturday.
because I
Yeah.
remember that night I went to Schwartz's like 40th birthday party at some bar over by the Gansvorts, and like Sandoval, Kyle from Summer House, Ariana,
Mhm.
we were all hanging out. Like Rachel was there. Like it was, and this was going on during it. And
Right.
now in retrospect, I'm like, holy crap! Like this was all going on under our noses, and I could not pick up on it at all at that time. Did you
Mhm.
get any weird vibes on stage?
No.
Because the
0.
misdirect was Schwartz and Rachel.
Correct. 0 vibes. When
Yeah.
I say 0 vibes, like, if you would have told me that, I would have been like, "Okay." Like,
Yes.
0. 0 vibes. And I have covered Vanderpump Rules since season 1. Like, I tell you, when I was at In Touch, we did a shoot with Lisa Vanderpump and, like, Jax and Schwartz, Sandoval, and I forget. I feel like there was one other that might have been there too. This was, like,
It's probably
pre-James
Peter.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, it probably was Peter.
Yeah. They
And
used to use him in photo shoots for like early VPR with his shirt off. Yeah.
wait, which by the way, side note, I saw your comment about Peter the other day. I just want to let you know, I did comment back. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I want to let everybody
I
know
didn't.
Peter's alive. Peter's alive and well. I actually had drinks with him not that long ago at Sir. And then we actually went to Tom Tom together afterwards.
But
So
why was
Peter's alive and
the
well.
Sir was in this week's episode and Peter wasn't there? Like,
I know.
why
Maybe it
isn't
was his
Pete
one
like
day
they
off.
actually featured Sir? What'd you say?
I know. Maybe it was Peter's one day off. I think he's off on Tuesdays.
He's off on
Um,
Tuesdays.
I know because when
Yeah,
I
see you
called
next Tuesday.
Yeah, right? When I called Peter, I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I'm coming to Sir. Like, I is there a table? Because like I'm like not to like be that girl, but I was like, I really would prefer not to like wait in the fan line." And he was like, "Well, I'm home, but I'm 5 minutes away. Just tell me when you park." So I texted him back. I'm like, "Okay, I'm parked." And then he came over, and like literally, Peter is like a god at Sir. Like it's actually really
Yeah.
funny. Like
He's like
people
a
line up.
politician.
No,
He's like shaky. He's kissing babies. He's shaking hands.
literally, we couldn't even finish our Vanderpump Rosé without, somebody being like, "Excuse me, may I interrupt for just a
Yeah.
minute?" And I'm like, Peter is a god at Sir. Like
Yeah.
Peter for
Yeah.
president at Sir for sure. But he is alive and well. I just like I saw
He's
that
alive and well.
comment
That's good.
and I
That's good to know. And I miss those
yeah.
little Peter scenes. Like I miss those little awkward moments with Peter in them. So I'm glad to know he's well, but I wonder if there was an actual decision of like, why are we not even just like there's usually some conversation between Lisa and Peter, and
I
we haven't even
know.
had that. We're 3 episodes into the season. I think he's good seasoning for the show, you
I
know?
know. I know. Yeah, he is good and let's hope that they bring him back like in some
I
capacity because I
I
know he loves
I
it.
really do. Well, I
He
mean, you
loves
said
it.
your relationship with the network when Scandoval broke. So did you have to? I got to talk to Bravo to see
Yeah.
what you're allowed to say. Is that what you're kind of hinting at?
Well, also like, hi, reaching out to see if there's comment on this like massive like tornado that's coming in like a wrecking ball. And, and again, like this is where it's like hard. Like I've covered the shows for so many years that like I have very close relationships with several talent across several shows who know these people. So,
Yeah,
everybody, when I tell you from not just like the cast of Vanderpump Rules is finding out and wanting to know what's going on. Like when shit like this hits the fan, we get calls from like people across all the networks being like, "What's going on?" Like they tap us being like, "Hey, have you heard anything?" Because they're invested too.
yeah.
So we reach when this stuff happens, like you reach out for comments to the network, you reach out to prospective publicists. I like to be respectful when reaching out to talent because you as a journalist you don't want to ever upset, at least for me. I can't speak for everybody, but I value my relationships very very much and I don't want to upset a publicist by going directly to their talent. So a lot of times talent will reach out to us, or when you have a super close relationship with talent, you just have to use your best judgment of like, is it safe to go to them or is that going to upset their rep?
See,
It's
Lene, this
different in
is
every case.
I need your help. This is what I don't like. I'm still like I don't know how the ecosystem works, and it's interesting because I'll talk to Michelle over at Betches, and like I'm not used to talking with publicists. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
used to talk, and it's really a fascinating ecosystem of how it all plays out. And you say
Mm-hmm.
something that's very interesting about relationships of, well, I don't want to offend this person. And like, you really do
Mm-hmm.
have to think about all of that stuff of like, I don't want to go over somebody's head. And it's interesting.
Totally.
Like, how did you find the right way to work? Is that something you just like by osmosis picked up on? Because the town really is all about relationships, right?
It is. And I always tell people, like, when people want my advice of like, I joke, but I'm like, I have someone for everything. Like, my son like last week was like, can we go to Nobu? Do you know the publicist? And like he's 10. So,
Your son's 10 and he's like, he
yeah.
knows Nobu?
No,
That's
yeah,
insane. Wow.
I know it is insane. But I just feel like, again, it's like a case by case basis. But like I always tell people when they ask for advice is like, take every opportunity that comes your way because you never know who you're going to meet. Like people will joke like, oh, Lene's always out. She's always out. But the reason I'm always out is because to me, that's always working because you never know who you're going to see, who you're going to meet. And then that person, I've been at so many parties where that person's like, oh my God, I had something I wanted to invite you to. And then like that invitation leads to like the next big story that I break because I got that invitation because something happened at that event or whatever it is. Or they introduce
because
you to
not
somebody
everybody's
else.
thinking about you all the time. It's good to be
Yeah.
around so they're reminded that you exist.
Exactly. So I always say, even if the event sounds lame, like if it's somebody who is connected to someone that's throwing it or someone might be there, like go get out there, network, introduce yourself, be, pleasantly persistent. Do not be rude. Do not be
Pleasantly,
abrasive. Pleasantly
Lene,
persistent.
Brody, pleasantly persistent. Is that what it says on your business card? Pleasantly persistent? Like, that's amazing. We need t-shirts that say pleasantly persistent. I like that a lot.
Totally.
Well, so Bravo was like, they were even surprised probably when you got word back. And then, you have to reach out, and you probably did get a hold of a cast member, which will remain nameless. Were you able to do a story with any pull quotes from anybody involved that day?
Well, I think when it first came out and like, the thing with like our lovely reality stars is like I said, it's like a lot of them we've known for so long and we are so close with because we go to these fan conventions and like several fans and influencers are also very friendly with the talent themselves. So reality to me is like a little bit of a different beast than like say dealing with like a Taylor Swift or a Jennifer Aniston, if you will, right? So
in what way is it different?
Just because we have more access to them and they're so, they're like us, like they're reality, they're real, like, right. They started working at SIR. Like I tell people like Sheena, actually my son was 2 days old. His pediatrician was upstairs from Villa Blanca. She was my server 2 days after I gave birth. Like she really did work there, guys.
Wait. Lene, 2 days after you gave birth, you went in and ate at Villa Blanca?
I did. That's my love of Bravo.
By the way, Sir is where you bring your mistress. Villa Blanca is where you go 2 days after you give birth. That's amazing.
Yeah. And she was, I remember like, but like, that's just what I mean. Like they're real people, right? Like, Chris and Dodie is also a really dear friend of mine. Like, and
you are so right.
Like Stassi, they all are like real. So like they were your server at one point and they're great people. And I think like when everything happened, you have to remember like the cast was finding out when the network was like, this was not planned to come out. This was not planned. I still firmly believe that if that situation didn't happen with the phone at the show, we may still not know. Like nobody knew. Yes. Like, people ask, that is the question I get asked all the time. Did you have any idea? Did anyone in the cast have any idea? I'm like, I've talked to multiples of them now. None of them knew anything. They found out when we did. So they were all calling us with questions too, as things were unfolding.
And you guys listening to this out there, I know sometimes we're in Scandoval exhaustion, but I think this provides a larger conversation and an entrance point into how pop culture works and how reporting on it works as well. And I think you make such a great point about these reality stars starting off. They're real people. Like it cracks me up. Like Dodie now will I've been on her show a couple of times and I was out of town and she wanted me to come on her show last week and I couldn't do it, but it still cracks me. Like I still get that initial jolt of, oh my God, Kristen Dodie's texting me. Yeah. Oh my God. A celebrity is texting me, and then she's just like, oh, bummer. oh, my boyfriend can't get back in time. Like, and she's just talking to me like a regular person because she is
Yeah.
a regular person. And it is funny. You have to remind yourself, but then there is a difference between that and, say, a Jennifer Lopez or a Taylor Swift. It's
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah, it really is.
Uh,
And again, that's why like I think it's so important for anyone out there who's looking to get into this, like be really good friends with the publicist because you want them to trust you. So if their client asks for your number or if it becomes, they ask you to get coffee and you start to develop a friendship with the talent themselves, you're able to kind of walk that fine line of if a Scandoval happens or we use that as an example now for everything, like what's my best course of action to get to the bottom of it and like do your due diligence, right? That's the best thing about being a fair reporter is you have to reach out to all parties involved when something like this happens to get the full story.
Lene, I need you to teach a workshop or write a book on this because I feel like I've made like probably a million mistakes already that I have no idea I've made already. But this is great to
No.
hear. So you cover all of these things. Has it changed your actual love of? My thing is sometimes when I've covered this so intensely, I'll then actually watch the show and it's changed my enjoyment of the show
Mhm.
because you've focused on it so much or you've talked to so many other people and you know what's going on behind the scenes. Has that ever affected your love of these reality TV shows and pop culture in general?
That's such an interesting question because, like I said, I've covered this show in specific for since season one. And I have gotten to know Schwartz and well, I mean Schwartz didn't, because it depends who you ask if Schwartz quote unquote did anything. But Schwartz and Sandoval I have known personally for a really, really long time. I mean, interview them on a carpet, go into a party, end up at the bar
Yeah.
with them for an hour, and then like Schwartz and Sandoval shut down Tom Tom at like the end of my birthday party one year, and like they like get shots for like 20 of my friends at like 1 a.m. Like they're
They're fun,
always
right?
been,
They're really
yes,
fun, nice,
they
charming men. They really
are.
are. That's
They
what I tell the audience. I
are.
said they would be it's like even Southern Charm. These people would be so fun to hang out with. I have hung out with Sandoval. I've hung out with
Right.
Schwartz. They are so fun. They want everybody to have a good time. They want everybody to like
Yes,
party and get a picture taken with them. They're so nice in that aspect. But
they
then there's this
are.
whole other aspect. So
I
did you ever
know.
personalize that when you did you ever personalize that because you did know them and you did follow it of like, oh, that's dark. That is really dark.
Yeah, it's really hard because like I love the girls so much and like, female to female, like you don't like to see a guy doing that. I do not agree with what he did. I don't like it. I don't think he handled it the right way. And if you ask me, like, if you're like, "Oh, whose team are you on?" Like, I felt very badly for Ariana, but like, listen, she's coming out on top. So, just look at her now. And I'm sure it was the greatest thing that ever happened to her was that breakup and
Well,
Scandoval.
it will be. I mean, I don't think she'll. I think it. I think feeling wise, it's got to be a little different because I think in retrospect, obviously, it will be the greatest thing and probably potentially for both of them down the line. But I think it's interesting from a PR perspective. I feel like who, and you don't have to say anything, but sometimes I look at it from an outsider's perspective and
Yeah.
go, who is advising Tom Sandoval right now? Like, who is advising? Because I feel like he'll do interviews. The agreement to go on Nick Vile's podcast and do that for me, I was like, what a mistake, even for Bravo, because it almost shows that he hasn't really changed. Like, he's like still very angry from what he has caused for himself. Like, would you advise him or anybody in these kind of situations differently when you're in kind of a PR crisis from reality TV?
I mean, listen, I actually spoke to Nick right before that episode dropped, and he said to me, he's like, "Wait till you hear it." And I was like, "Uh-oh."
Oh,
I
I
I
was
was like,
wondering
"I'm
if Sandoval
scared."
begged him to not release it. I was like, I wonder if Sandoval was like, "Hey, dude, that was kind of crazy what I did. Can we just not do that?" Like Nick came out on top, but it was like, I mean, Sandoval, really didn't make himself look great again.
No, I mean, it was great for Nick. I mean, shout out to Nick who's doing amazing things, by the way. Amazing, amazing things. Um,
He's killing it.
he is killing it. I mean, listen, one thing I think about a lot of these reality stars too is like sometimes I see that like their friends are advising them and not a
Professionals.
paid person who's like done this for a long time. Like I don't know. I can't say like what happened in this, scenario, if you will,
Yeah.
but also sometimes editing happens and like we don't know how it could have been edited or what may or may not have been left out. I'm trying to be very fair in
That's
answering this
very judicious. That's
question.
very, I like, we don't know what the actual edit is, you guys. That sounds very, that's great. I love that answer. So,
But
it,
yeah, I can see though how it
Lanae, there
maybe
wasn't a
didn't
lot
look.
of editing. Nick left in 40 minutes of Tom being late. So there wasn't a lot of editing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we don't, and Nick had every right to release it. You know what I mean?
He
And
does. I mean, I see. I was thinking about that, and like, if I had ever had that opportunity, I don't know if I would have the balls to release it. If
right,
I was thinking about that because I think that's like, these are career changing. Not, I mean, like not career, but
totally.
like they really help a career because they get you talked about, they get new ears, all of these things. But at the same time, I don't know. Like, I feel like I would feel. I mean, I've taken things out of this show from Bravo Celebrities. I mean, because Bravo asked or because the
Yeah,
person asked after the fact. And I've always went along with it because I want to have good relationships. I think Nick was in a really nice position where he is now a little more powerful enough where he's able to kind
totally.
of push back. He's able to get those interviews where he's able to get them to be honest and unfiltered. And there's only a couple of people that are allowed to be like that in the
Mhm.
podcasting industry in terms of reality right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, I also know that like they're friendly. So who knows who was doing who was
Special
solid. I don't
forces,
know.
special
Yeah.
forces. Yeah. Um,
Exactly. Exactly. But
what?
it'll be
Okay.
interesting. Oh, I was just gonna say, I
Yeah.
think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season shapes out. I mean, let's talk about like the assistant who's now working for Ariana. Like what? So like obviously, I want to know what
And
happened there. That is what I want to know. Is like Anne need who is
well,
doing the sit down with Anne?
probably Nick Vile. Probably Nick Vile. No, we've actually reached out to Anne, and Bravo is keeping her on a very tight leash right now, even though she wants to do it. But
Yeah,
you can tell Anne is very excited about. She's like, oh my God, I'm in the New York Times. Oh my God, Variety
I
just interviewed
know.
me. She's very excited because she is an improv actor. Like, I remember her from the days over at UCB. She had like an improv group that I remember from being in that scene back in the day. So she's like kind of excited. And my theory is we'll see a storyline this season where she gets fired or quits Tom Sandoval, then moves to Ariana. And the only reason I think this is because on the Nick Vile podcast, Schwartz let it drop that Tom's assistant quit a couple weeks before that interview. But then Anne said that wasn't her. So that means that's his second assistant. And Anne must have quit or been fired during the season, is my guess.
I also want to know, maybe I was the only one thinking this when I was watching it. What the hell does he need an assistant for? Am I the only one who was
Yeah,
wondering
I mean, he
that?
goes to somebody for his nails. So, well, obviously, we found out this week, if you watch the episode, she's washing dishes. Like, she's washing dishes, cleaning the house, taking the dog out. So, but at the same time, in terms of like, I mean, it worked out for Anne. She's being celebrated
Yeah.
as a hero right now.
I'm really happy for Anne. Justice for Anne. And I mean, hey, she's got a great new boss, right?
Yeah. Well, so you love Bravo. You've loved Bravo from the beginning. We're entering a really exciting season because we're starting Summer House, which is going to see the dissolution of Lindsay and Carl's relationship. And we're at the season finale of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and we're going to start the reunion, but we're also going to get to that place where they pick up the cameras again for Mauricio and Kyle. How has it been for you as a viewer? I mean, maybe even away from your reporter mind. How has that been to watch the story that they're trying to tell this season in terms of Kyle and Mauricio?
Well, first of all, when I knew that they were picking the cameras back up for the Kyle Mauricio stuff, I mean, I kind of had heard that it was more like they were doing pickups, which for those who don't really know that, like that's super standard in reality TV, especially Housewives, because like if something does happen, like they always are filming confessionals, like literally up until the end almost, of things that are happening, so the ladies can be talking about things in real life, and like they'll have to go pull that outfit from 6 months ago and wear it and pull that picture to make sure their makeup's the same. Like those are, like Hollywood can do a really good job of like, messing with grandma's mind in
Yeah.
Iowa who doesn't know how this works. um but So I was kind of told that they weren't necessarily like picking back up, if you will, to like film a bunch
So
of
not like
stuff like they did with
Scandoval.
Scandoval.
Not
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Correct. Because, I know Kyle, I love Kyle. I mean, again, I've like met her season 1 and covered that show forever because it's in my backyard. Like New York, I don't have the same access to. So those ladies I do. And, I think Kyle's like had a really rough go when it comes to her personal life on this show in like different capacities than other people. Like Kim, Kathy, now Mauricio. I guess it comes in threes, right? I was at Kathy's house in December twice for
For
Christmas
the
at Kathy's
direct
and
TV party?
DirecTV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, like, by the way, I mean, whenever I get invited to Kathy's, it's like it comes in like increments. So like although I wasn't invited to the Christmas party, which who knows, maybe next year, I did get to do Christmas at Kathy's, and then she had another Christmas party. But when I saw Kyle was there,
Listen, I'll do President's Day at Kathy. I'll do like the crappy holidays.
Flag Day at
I just want to get
Kathy's.
over to Kathy. Yeah, exactly. I'll do like casual Fridays at Kathy's. I'll do whatever. Yeah.
Happy hour. I mean, I going to Kathy Hilton's house is always so fun. The decor, the art, the like little homages to like her life and her friends is like super cool. But I remember like seeing Kyle there. I was like, am I the only one who's like, the story here is that Kyle is here? Because like they weren't speaking, and then all of a sudden Kyle is here. And Kyle, like, one thing I will tell people about Kyle, she's like me, fellow Capricorn, so loyal. So like, even though her and her sister were having problems, they probably had just buried the hatchet, and like she had come to the party. And of course, like I wanted to know right away. I'm like, well, is she talking to Paris and Nikki? Because Nikki's here. Like, what's going to happen with Nikki? Like, are they talking? Because the cousins are always friends. They always are somehow able to like leave their moms out of it, which I think is amazing. But when I saw Kyle, the last time I saw her was in December, like she seemed like she was in a really good place, really peaceful. She seems like whatever's happening, whether it's her friendship or more with Morgan, she just seems to be having that support and like doing well. And it's my understanding that her and Mo are like, they talk, they, like they're in a better place.
They live in the same house. They just are in different rooms from my understanding at times. Yeah, God, no.
Ariana and Tom couldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 27. Yeah, by the way, Anne's going to be an assistant to Mauricio now. But that was funny too. I was kind of shocked about Kyle though. You saw what a rough time she had gone through with the loss of her friend, the Kathy stuff that started at the reunion and last season through Rinna, and then obviously Mauricio. And she has a very real family that they created over 27 years. I was kind of shocked that she allowed Morgan to be on this season, because I would almost think if that relationship, and I don't mean romantically, but even if it's a new friend that you're actually relying on during these hard times, why introduce a camera and all of us into it? Because then I start making stupid memes. We all start joking about it or kind of speculating about it. Why not protect that with everything that you have if that's your safe space? And I think that's the question I have going into the reunion of, was there any trepidation for her to do that?
Yeah, well, see, and I actually thought it was the other way around. I actually thought I got the vibe that Morgan's not super into this. And my fear as a Bravo fan is that this is going to be Kyle's last season. That's my fear.
Well, listen, I mean, 13 seasons.
I know.
She's been from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's okay to take a year off here and there.
No, it's not, because then you don't come back. Let me tell you how I'd be doing. Not well, bitch. Like I would like, even like with the rebrand of New York, like I don't know about you, but every time I turn it on, like it's good. I like it, but I am not like as comforted by it as I was when it was like, I've got my OGs on. So if Kyle were to leave, I would have a hole in my heart. It would be bad.
No, I agree with you. I think she, like I said on this week's recap, I said she is Beverly Hills, period. Mm-hmm. She is the head of that ship. And of course, I want to see her and what that looks like moving on, what that looks like for her. But I know she had a lot of trepidation even going into this season herself, because whatever was happening with her and Mauricio, she even said in an interview with Kate Arthur at the Spago dinner for Variety, she said, listen, we knew what was going on and I don't have a good poker face. We knew cameras were picking back up. And I thought that was an interesting way to then go back and watch this season of knowing that each scene with her and Mauricio, they've already decided to separate, but it's how much they want to let the viewers in on their very real relationship. And you can tell they're very protective over it, because even next week at the finale, we see a scene with them sitting down with their family and their daughters. They've already had this conversation, you guys. They're just now having it for TV.
Right.
They're not going to just have it for the first time for cameras, and they're very protective of their family. And sometimes that works against a reality star, because the viewer will be like, we signed up for your real life. And Kyle's like, no, this is my reality. I can't do it for this one, you know?
Definitely. Definitely. Well, that's why I do think there were things going on behind the scenes that we didn't know, obviously, but they really hit it well. They really hit it well.
Yeah.
For season after season after season. And people also need to remember, like, the root of the tension between the family, like Kyle with Kathy, and then also with Kim, like Mauricio always kind of was like the underlying issue. Like Rick and Mauricio, it's like totally out there. Also, if you read his book, you will read about it. But like, they had some beef and some drama when Mauricio left to go start the agency.
People forget Mauricio used to work for Rick Hilton, and that happened. And then the agency, which is now just a juggernaut. And I was thinking about that last night when I was doing the recap, and I was thinking, this week's episode, Mauricio said we have 85 offices now. We're going to have 100 by the end of the year. And I was thinking, even in terms of Sutton and her ex-husband, who just took on another, like, a promotion in London. And I was like, what is it about, people that once they start building their kingdom, and it's like, what is it that they can't let go of that? Like Mauricio,
Right.
It's very clear. He's so proud of the agency, obviously. And I was wondering what that is that he's willing to be like, I can't right now put the time that you need into this, that you need. And I wonder what that is. Is it just like the impossibleness of like, this is a 1 in a million shot and it's actually working, so I can't let this go?
Yeah, but he's been successful for a while now. If anything, the show has garnered even more success, right? Because look at like Selling Sunset. Let's talk about another, like, when we talk about reality, like those people actually could sell you a house. You want to go buy a house? You want to, I've asked, I remember I asked Gina Kirschenheiter from OC. Oh, love her so much.
Yeah, she's selling now.
I asked her, like, I was like, Sirius has a heart attack. Do you have fans calling you? Do you give your real number out? Do you have a burner phone? Like, I really wanted to know. But like, this girl, shout out to her. She is out there, single mama, hustling, and has a real job.
Yeah.
And she has like, props. If we do not like really give her props, I mean, that's incredible.
But like,
serious question though.
What I love about that too is that I was saying this the other week in terms of Brandi Glanville, and we're probably never going to see that Ultimate Girls Trip season because of whatever happened with her and Caroline Manzo. And if you read those court documents, it's really horrifying. But I said, sometimes I feel as an audience member, we then feel responsible for these people. And we're like, we got to make sure we take care. We got to buy their tummy tea for the rest of their lives to make sure they're financially supported. When, like, with Gina, where I see that where she made a sale, and I'm like, good, you have a career to go to after Housewives is done, and you're not dependent on Ultimate Girls Trip picking back up or you needing to get back on the season. And that comforts me, because then I can watch them without worry. And I know that's weird parasocial, but I do feel that responsibility sometimes when you hear Brandi on Twitter saying, I need to make a living, I
know. Listen, it's hard. And if you're not no G, like, remember when Teresa went to jail? I mean, who could forget? But like,
well, we got those Jen Shaw pictures today. Did you see that?
I can't. Yes. How could I miss them? That was like, but Jen Shaw she's someone, in my opinion, that if she would have ridden out Housewives. I mean, literally, if it weren't for the show, she may not be in jail right now. We don't know, right? I think the show shined that extra light to, bring attention, if you will, to the situation.
I always joke that the FBI has like a housewives department now, and like they must, any kind of new cast member, no, I'm joking, Lene,
no,
but like any kind of new cast member, they must just like immediately go, let's put a spotlight on this. I feel like you are now more watched. Yeah, I mean, I was watching The Housewife and the Hustler Part 2 on Hulu about Erica Jane and Tom Girardi again, which is really, really decent, like kind of reporting that gets really in there. And it's, once again, you're like, guys, is it worth the trade-off of fame
Right.
for all of your businesses to get looked into. And nobody seems to learn is that you better make sure all of your practices are above board if you want to be on TV, or it's going to be a really rough road potentially.
Yeah, well, Bethany gave that warning. Like, she made some comment when Jen got arrested about like, well, what did she think was going to happen? And Teresa, like when she went to jail, I mean, she paid off her, what did she call it? The restitutionism or whatever Teresaism she gave it. But like the prostitution, I mean, whatever she called it at the time.
Restitution whore, 19
exactly.
times. Yeah.
But she paid that off with that sit down with Andy Cohen. At least that was, that was a report at the time, like that she was able to do that. But like, if it wasn't a Teresa where people were like so invested in her and what was happening, like, remember, like as a housewife stand watching that and you're like, don't throw the book at her. We need to see what happened. Like that season was rough. That was a rough season.
Yeah, it really.
And that,
I mean, that we have been through this before, and we've been through it with OGs. And then when Jen Shah does it, I think there's something we're desensitized as an audience, because we're like, this is like Groundhog's Day. We've been here before, deja vu, but like it's like a copy of a copy of a copy. And then today we get a People exclusive by our buddy Dave Quinn, which I didn't like. I mean, does this go towards the restitution? Like, is whatever money I didn't realize you were allowed to take. I'm so confused by all of the prison system, I guess. But Jen, they're doing like a Barbie contest in prison. Like it looks more fun than the life I'm living right now. Like Jen looks great. She's like, doing a pose, like has like a little, like she cut off she like styled her prison outfit to look like, it was very shocking, Lene.
It was very shocking. I did open that too. And I was like, is this new? That was the first thing that went through my head. Like, is this photoshopped? What is this?
Did they do that? By the way, she might have just done a bunch of like pre-prison photo ops before just to use them throughout her stay. But no, this was on the, I think they said it was like the 27th or like it was this year.
I'm not sure what to think about that one. I would say
I'm glad Barbie's successful even in the prisons. I love they have Barbenheimer in the prisons potentially.
It's trending in prison, and Jen's in. I mean, she's in like a low, security,
very low security.
Which like okay, but I feel like that situation though was different because like what she was accused of doing with the elderly being involved, it was a lot different than like the Teresa situation, which Teresa was basically accused of putting her John Hancock on something that she didn't read. And she took the heat for Juicy Joe. So, and she, but like, I don't know about you. I remember at the time, like, she'll never leave Juicy Joe. And she did.
Me too. Oh my gosh, Lene, remember that episode where they went to Italy and like Juicy Joe, or was it Italy, or it was when they went to see Juicy Joe and they were in that room together, Teresa and Joe, and you could tell Teresa wasn't in it. And he was like looking to potentially hook up after the kids went to bed. And like right then I was shocked. I was like, wow, like you can see it in her eyes. It just wasn't there. And the realization from Juicy Joe, it was go back and watch that episode, you guys. It was really intense in a way of like, it was very sad. It was very real.
It was. And I don't know about you, but like I literally am hitting refresh every day being like, when is Real Housewives of New Jersey going to pick up their cameras? Because like it's been enough. It's been a minute.
Well, they finished the season. It's just when it's going to come out, right?
It needs to come out like, well, and they keep, there's all these rumors that they're going to like reboot it or like recast it. And like, I don't want any more recasts. Ratings. I know. I just don't want any.
It got such great ratings last season. It's not happening.
I want to see that recasting. Danielle, the Danielle
Cabral,
Jen Aiden Cabral, the brawl. The Cabral brawl. I want to see it.
The Cabral brawl. That's the Cabral brawl. Okay, that's good.
Like I don't know about you, but whenever like I either like if I get a tip or like one of like my former amazing colleague Dave Quinn gets tip, like whoever it is, and they post about it, and I'm always like, oh my god, I gotta find out if this is true or what actually happened. And like I'm literally like like typing, texting, calling. Like that is the best part about my job is like being a journalist who's invested to like really get to the bottom.
Yeah,
like, I want to know.
Do you ever Do you ever use your journalistic connection? Like you have no plan to write a story, but you're like, I'm going to act like I am just so I can get the dirt. I need to get the tea. Like, I know that's probably a big no, but I would be like, I would just want all the information all the time.
Well, I feel like usually it's something that like I would at least pitch. So like I go in, like if there's like a report out there, but a lot of times too, like our editors don't like they might be working on something else, so they don't like know something's going on. So I'll be like, here, this just happened and this is why we should do it. And like again, pleasantly persistent, I make my case as to like why we should cover it. Because if an editor is like not super into something, like you have to sell it. You have to sell it. You
Yeah.
have to be a salesman.
Well, that's why, above all, like Scandoval helped every industry, podcasting, journalism,
Yeah.
because it showed people. I mean, I'm sure it showed your editors, like, people are really interested in this stuff. So it potentially made all of our jobs a little bit easier because there was a rabid audience for it. And then that can lead to like talking about the other shows. And I was doing a segment on Bravo ratings because they released all their ratings from Peacock and Bravo, and they've had the best year. The reunion of Vanderpump Rules Part 1 was the most watched show in Bravo history. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that is. But I'm not shocked. I mean, people who never watched the show were watching it and obsessed with it.
Were you obsessed with Salt Lake City and the reality Von Tease of it all?
Duh. I actually, during the pandemic,
Is that a journalistic quote?
Yeah.
Duh.
It's a Bravo journalistic quote. During the pandemic, I was the first taste of media that the ladies had, season 1, because they launched during the pandemic. And so Bravo was like, hey,
I remember.
what do you think about moderating a panel on Zoom for like 50 influencers? This is like before influencers were really like a thing, but like 50 Bravo bloggers, they can come on, they're going to meet the ladies and you'll just like moderate like a conversation. They would have all seen the first episode. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so amazing. So they were like, FYI, they haven't done any press yet. You're first. And I'm like, ugh. I was like, oh shit. Okay. I was like, that's no pressure. It was honestly one of the hardest panels I had to moderate because like fans kept like commenting on Zoom and then like the producers would be commenting like, please include this,
stop.
Please include this person. Please don't ask that question. And I was like, oh my God, there's a lot happening. But it was Heather Gay, Lisa Barlow, Meredith Marks, and Jen Shaw. And me.
Wow.
And 50 bloggers. And it was so much fun. It was so cool. But that's how I like, talk about getting to know talent. Like I got to know them like very well, like on the computer. And like my parents have a place in Deer Valley in Utah. So when I go up there now, I'm always like, oh my God, Lisa Barlow, come meet me for some Vita tequila at the Star Nixon.
I would love to, Lanae. I love Vita. Let's do this.
God.
Let's eat at Taco Bell.
I love her so much. Salt Lake girls,
you know what I love?
A special place.
I love Lisa Barlow, I always say, because she's unapologetically Lisa Barlow. Like, it's like she loves herself, and I love that she leans into it, and she's, she's like, we love people that are unapologetically themselves. Like, and by the way, I'm not saying Lisa Barlow is a perfect person, because obviously she isn't, but I love that doesn't stop her from being herself. Like, I want that. I want people that are allowed, like, that are unapologetically themselves, warts and all, and she is that.
Same. And this season, like, listen, people have their feelings on Monica, and I've sat here and I'm like, am I the only one who's like, this girl is not lying. She is honest. She helped like lock up a felon. Like she is the real deal. And like, I did not think she was going to be a one and done. We've had
Tom Sandoval didn't cheat. Tom Sandoval, he never cheated. Like, I love that you're like, no, you believed it fully, right? You believed Monica and what she was saying fully, and that she was a hero.
Fully.
So were you extra shocked when that came out?
I was shocked. I was like, this can't be true. And then we had ran a story on the Messenger, but that the ladies, like the report came out, but the cast members still had not been told that she was out. So again, let's talk about things hitting the news before it hits the people, but they didn't know for sure yet that like who was coming back and who wasn't. But, cameras are now up and rolling in Salt Lake, and, there's rumored newbies. But like, I don't know about you, but like, it takes me a minute to get invested in newbies. Monica, I like hit the ground running with, but that's also because like I said, I felt like she was very honest, real. And like, you'd be like, you did this. It was so wrong. And she'd be like, yeah, you know what? I did.
Well, it's a tale of two newbies, right? Because you have Anna Marie Wiley, who had the opposite
Yeah.
experience, where I kind of like,
Yeah.
and then Monica, where you're right. Like I was invested. I was invested in her personal storyline, which usually I don't care about families at that
Same.
point. Like I was like, wow. And I think I was like, okay, with Jen Shaw being out, it almost helped us pay a little bit more attention to a newbie, a fresh newbie that still had a little bit of a tether to a cast member, Jen Shaw. So that
Correct.
thing kind of got us in there, but then they were able to land the plane. So it was really disappointing. Like it's a very interesting standalone season. And I'm very curious how they will pick up the pieces from here. And I don't doubt they can do it, but I still, even to this day, would have loved to have seen how they would have even reintegrated Monica. That's
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I love to see how these cast members deal with hurdles. And I will Heather Gay, I think, is such an effective housewife, but at the end of the day, I'll still never not believe that she took a risk and knew what she was doing that last day in on the vacation. Like
Oh,
she
100.
I think she left her mic pack on knowingly. I think, and by the way, talking about pitching stories, she did that interview with Kate Arthur for Variety, and she talked about like, listen, I had to go pitch it to the producers, and the producers was like, well, why should we care? Like, what's reality Von Tease? Like, they weren't aware of why it was important, and Heather had to do like the whole rundown of why this was important. And then they decided, okay, let's do this. Let's get the ladies by the beach. And they took Heather's word for it after she pitched them. And that's the part of the story that I find fascinating was
Mm-hmm.
Heather Gay pitching it to the producers.
Yeah. That finale was like wild, wild. That will go
So
down as one
good.
of the best finales in Bravo history.
Yes. And across the board, the ladies, production,
Mm-hmm.
music, editing, like it was just really, really well done. And like the way that timeline receipts, the way that
Yep.
they bumped up each one,
Bravoisms.
like so great. It was so good. It made
Mm-hmm.
me so proud of Bravo as a network because I'm like,
I
this is
know.
where we're bordering on art. We're bordering on art.
Yes. Yes.
Listen,
Emmy worthy.
do you got 10 more minutes? This has gone way too quick. Are
Yeah.
you good?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Absolutely. I'm
okay.
good on time.
Okay, listen. We talked so much about Bravo, and I could talk another 3 hours with you about it.
Me
So hopefully
too.
you'll come back. But I do want to say you were just at the Super Bowl. Why were you at
I
the Super Bowl?
I was. So I was there covering as a journalist. I got to go to like a ton of events, a ton of parties. I don't like to humble brag, but I was the reporter who broke the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce dating news for the Messenger. And
Well, we're
I
at the Super Bowl. I was like, Lene, we know
no.
at this point they're dating.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
I was
No,
like,
I'm like I broke it in September
wait, how did you break
and
it? Wait, how did you
I
break the story?
well, I had a really good source who just had like told me in passing, "Hey, like I think she's hanging out with an athlete right now." And I was like, "Oh, who?" And the source is like, "I don't know, like an athlete." I was like, "Well, like let me get
Like
my
an athlete.
Rolodex. Let me go on like, I was like sitting there, I'm like, and this is like when we were, the journalist and you was like, "Okay, now let me look at every athlete that she has DM or no, I mean I wouldn't know DM, sorry. Like you left a
Or
comment
just talked about her.
or whatever." So I was like, okay, I kind of like shoved it to the side. This was like over the summer, like towards the end of summer. And so then I like reached back out a couple weeks later. I was like, "Hey, remember when you said like that there was an athlete that you thought?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "Do you remember do you any inclination, any sport? How about the sport?" They were like, I don't really know sports very well, but like I think football." And I was like, I just like don't even I just shouted out. I was like, "Travis Kelce?" I don't know why I thought it was Travis because I think like I had remembered like
Well,
him
he was
going,
talking about it on his podcast,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
at that point. Yeah.
And so I think that's what it was. And they were like, "Kelce, yeah, the Kelce guy, the Kelce guy." And I was like, "Okay, like that, really?" So I just started like kind of doing my homework and like tapping other people and like, has anyone heard anything? Has anyone, and so I was able to break it.
And so how
It
did
took
you
a lot of
break it? I mean,
time.
for the messenger you broke it? Like, how do you break something like that? Do you write an article of I think I figured out who Taylor Swift is dating? How did you break
No,
the news?
it took a few weeks. Like I said, it took a few weeks and like and if somebody said to you like,
No,
oh,
but in terms
like,
of presenting it, in terms of presenting
oh,
it to the Met, like in terms of the actual article that came out, was
yeah.
the article headline like "I figured out who Taylor Swift is with"?
No,
Like, how did you present it?
when you get that, you just kind of go to your team and you say, hey, like, I'm hearing this. This is at least what I do. Like, I'm hearing this. Has anybody else heard anything about this? Or like, if she might be hanging out with an athlete, or if any athlete's been hanging out with her, like at that point, that's when you start looking into your sports sources. Like that one was like like finding a needle in the haystack at first. Cause like, athlete, you're like
Yeah,
NFL, NBA, like soccer,
retired.
gymnastics,
Yeah,
like running, like you're all over the place. So yeah, like
yeah.
when I
I
was
mean, at this
able,
point, is it pickleball? Is it Randall Emmett? Like, come on.
can you imagine if it was like Tom Brady or something? I don't know. I mean, it could have been anybody, but I think like it was right around the time when like that his podcast came out too. So I think that's why it was kind of like,
Did you get to see Taylor and Travis in person? Did you get to like? Did Taylor get to thank you for breaking the
no, oh
story?
my gosh, no, but I wish I was actually at the same hotel they were partying at, but I did not see them. I was at the Flippers had a party at Encore Beach Club at the Win, and they were at XS at the Win. So we may have been breathing the same air,
That's
but
all
we
that
were
matters.
not.
And what stories did you do? What caught your interest over the Super Bowl weekend?
So what did I do? I mean, I was just like out at all the events. We got to see Usher. He was at the Flippers party. We saw, I'm trying to think. Oh, I got to see Luke Combs at MGM. He did a big game bet bash party. I hope I'm saying that
Did he sing Fast
correct.
Car?
He did, and I actually, and like I got to see like little cute tidbits. Like he was catching up with Maren Morris at, this Flippers after party, because that's where Usher went. Usher had like a private party at Cathedral, and then from there he went to the Encore for another party. He was like on roller skates, like living his best Usher life after just getting married and performing at this halftime show.
Man, those roller skates were a choice. When I keep thinking about that performance, I'm like, when did the roller skates like become like a decision? Like I was
I
like, that's a really
know.
ballsy decision in front of like to bomb on roller skates would just be like just one bad move. And we're like, we can see Usher has abs, so he has good control. But like, my
I mean, he
God,
does.
that's just
I know.
scary as heck to be on roller skates.
I know, I know. But yeah, so that was really fun. I went to like Lee Steinberg's party. I went to Sports Illustrated actually. I got to see Brittany Mahomes in the flesh right before the game. That was pretty
Did she
cool.
seem nice?
I
Everybody
you
always
know,
says there's all
I
these reports out
know.
there saying she's like, and I feel like that's so unfair because it's like they're watching, like they're almost wanting her to be mean.
I know. Well, that video that came out of her, like that they were saying she was being rude to some guy asking like where to go. I watched it like umpteen times and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't see it. And I've never interacted with her. I don't know her. I don't know where it came from. But like, let's also remember that like we sometimes do and say things like 5, 10 years ago that we would be mortified of ourselves. Like I definitely have. I'm sure we all have. And like maybe that's where it started. Her and Patrick
I
have been
said
together
things
a
a
really
week
long
ago,
time.
Lene, that I'm
I
like horribly ashamed of. Are you kidding me? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean years ago? But it is like even they had that video of Brittany Holmes, like Jackson Mahomes,
yeah,
or like the brother, not being able to get to her table and her kind of shrugging it off in the video, which then that got picked up, it was
right.
actually kind of funny. But it is so many eyes on you. There's no way you're
Right.
going to be perfect. It's wild.
No, there's no way. And like, I saw a picture today, like unfortunately there was that terrible shooting at the
Yeah,
parade
in
the other day. And
Kansas.
like they were with the kids today, which obviously was like a really nice and proper thing of them to do. But I don't know her personally. I did see her in the flesh. I will say like I saw who else? Olivia Colpo's sister we got to see. BB Rexa was there. It was a good crop of people, but it's an exhausting weekend. I
That's
didn't
what I was.
actually Yeah, no, I didn't actually go to the game this year. I got to actually go last year and it was incredible. Like the best experience of my life. I was like on the field for Rihanna. It was so much fun.
Oh
That
my
ticket
gosh.
is so hard to get. And I've like heard from other journalist friends of mine too that Vegas, it was so much harder to get than like other games because I think just
Oh, I
everyone
bet.
and their mother wanted to go.
Oh,
So I went to a really fun Verizon watch
Ah.
party instead. Shout out to them for having me. But it was, you know,
Hey,
the
Verizon Watch, shout out. Hey, I want to get on your list, Verizon Watch Party, for next year. No, I mean, this really is so exciting. I grew up loving pop culture so much, and I really love to hear these kind of stories. And that's why you really are a perfect guest. I'm so glad you came,
thank
because
you.
I geek out on this stuff, and I know the audience geeks out on this stuff so much. I guess the final question to you is, in terms of entertainment reporting and covering with all of your years now of doing this, what are you seeing change that you don't love in terms of entertainment reporting? Like, is there,
Yeah.
is there things where, like, I'm seeing this kind of trend that I'm not loving, that I think we're getting it wrong
I
about?
mean, you know what's interesting is like back in the day, like people used to like love reading Perez Hilton because he was like would always make fun of people and was
Yeah,
so
I would
mean and
refresh
like
multiple
yeah,
times.
same. And now like I find that everyone's a lot gentler, thankfully, you know, like not breaking pregnancy news is like I've had a lot of pregnancy news. Like I even there's someone in my head right now that I know is pregnant that like I
Would you
wouldn't
like
do
to break
anything.
that Taylor Swift
Yeah.
is pregnant on So Bad It's Good? Can we break it
I
right here?
mean,
Yeah.
oh my god, if only it was her. No. She plus she's in Australia right now. No, but like I'm glad we've kind of gotten away from like that because these really are humans. But you know, there's been so many layoffs in this industry lately, and that makes me so sad because if I may say anything, journalism's so important. Being a fair journalist is really important. Storytelling and reporting the facts and the news and being impartial is really, really important. And I don't want people to lose sight of that. And like I always joke, I'm like, we're not saving lives, we're destroying them by being entertainment journalists. But like, you know, we're not doctors here. We're not rocket scientists. Like I'm not, you know, curing cancer or anything of that nature. And like I love what I do because people can sit there and check out a little bit and like people are so invested in these people that they love and like they think they know and you know they don't but like I give them that taste of like what's going on in their life, right? But I just think it's
Yeah.
so important and I hate to see the industry not being what it was in that department anymore and not as strong and so many people out of jobs. But news is
But yeah,
important.
we're so reliant on click rates and all of this kind of stuff
Yeah.
that, like, is, the digital media and people trying to monetize off this. It is sad to watch. And I know a lot of people don't really realize what's going on behind the scenes. But you are such an important piece of this for people like me, because I always say you give credibility to the shows that I love. You give credibility
Yeah.
to the pop culture that I love. And if well-respected voices can write about this and pass on these messages, it really combats my big annoyance with pop culture now is not to you, but is fake news, is people just putting out stuff that is not
Totally.
verified, completely false, and then that gets passed around. So we need good, strong voices that are doing actual good old fashioned reporting that we can believe in. And that's the scariest thing, is that there's so much false information in there that we need those voices that we can trust. And it's so
Yeah.
great that you're one of those.
Yeah, no, and it's really that's why I say it's so important to like have good relationships so that you know and giving people like time to respond. Like you have to remember like these people have normal lives too. They might be on a plane, they might be on vacation, like whatever. Like news does not sleep, unfortunately. So I really
Which, by
hope
the way, it's
that
almost a year anniversary of your Friday at Scandoval. It's almost the year
my god,
anniversary.
I
No, in fact,
know.
I think we're at that year anniversary. It was a Friday. It was rain, like, so we're
March.
now almost at
Yeah.
that year anniversary when we all had to put down our lives and start covering this madness. So happy almost year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, how are you going to celebrate?
I'll probably do what I did that day, get a bottle of wine and just cry. I was, no, I remember, I was like, I really, no, it's so sad. The audience knows this. I was like, I was devastated. Like I would have fought to the death
Same.
saying that wasn't true, because I knew
Same.
Ariana knew it. And then I got word from, then I was like, oh, and I really like, it was so, like, so idiotic in retrospect, but I was just floored. I was like,
Yeah.
no way. And because, like,
Same.
I had been with them all at Coachella. Like I was with, like I was like, wait a sec. Like I was like, there's no way. I said,
I
I talked to
know.
Rachel. Like there was no, because then I was like, well, how far back does it go? And there was all these questions then thrown out about timelines. And like you said, I would have never in a million years believed it. I would have fought. And then DJ James Kennedy was like, screw you, Tom Sandoval. And I was like, screw you, DJ James Kennedy. Tom's a good man. Like I was fighting DJ James Kennedy. Like it was ridiculous.
Who knew he'd be the number one guy in the group? Like that scandal
by default, Lene.
Right? That's true. I mean that, and like, you know, let's not forget we capped the year off with the TJ Holmes and Amy Robach. Like that scandal, as a journalist, like I was eating that scandal. I mean, well, that one actually came first, but it was that they must have loved Scandoval because it really took the light off of them.
Yeah. And by the way, now they're benefiting from the power of podcasting,
Literally.
Amy and TJ. Can you imagine being hardcore reporters and then now they're like, you know, having to like air out their own relationship on their own? I mean, the pop culture is wild these days. The access is wild that we all have.
We all love a scandal, even if it's a Scandoval.
Well, that's another good t-shirt. Lanae, you know, Lanae, Brody, you are amazing. How do we support you? How do we keep up to date with everything that you're writing? Like, where do we go?
Thank you. You can follow me on Instagram at Lanae Brody, Lanae Brody. Give me a follow, slide into my DMs, and maybe I'll share it with Peter the next time I see him.
Yeah, guys, I'll put all that in the show notes, but I hope you'll come back again because this was just such a great, easy, flowing conversation, and we didn't get to like half the things that I wanted to talk about. So thank you for doing this on a Friday. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. I know this was so much fun. I feel like we gapped a lot of Bravo, but I could literally talk about Bravo all day, every day.
I know, right? I was like, we just scratched the surface. So you'll definitely be coming back. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.